One of Poland's leading entrepreneurs, the Berlin and Swiss-based Pole Marek Kamienko, launched his new pro-business foundation in Brussels with a dramatic appeal from lawyers and other experts to the Polish government to help rather than hinder the life of businessmen in Poland. One of the speakers was 14-year-old Sandra Nacek, who appealed for help from newly elected Polish MEPs to be reunited with her mother Dagmar. Mrs. Nacek was among those detained and imprisoned in 2013 when the Warsaw authorities launched a raid against Mr. Kamienko's employment agency operations.
I think it's important that Poland looks very hard at this remarkable number of cases of people who are just ripped out from their businesses, held under preventive detention. Transparency International, the European Court of Human Rights have all shown great concern about this by a state bureaucracy that just doesn't seem to know how to handle justice properly. Bad guys who break the law, hit them hard. I mean, I've got no problems with that. But these preventive detentions, it means that businesses close down abruptly and all these guys suddenly start having to find jobs outside of Poland. So there's an international aspect to this, and I hope that the new generation of Polish members of the European Parliament, elected and now starting work in Brussels and Strasbourg, will look very seriously at one of the dark side of the Polish economic success story, which we all want to continue.
Is this something that the Commission or the Parliament or even individual governments should be addressing, or is it just the Polish government?
It's one for the Polish government, but Poland is a proud member of the EU, contributes a lot to the European Union, but in this particular area doesn't respect European law or the way that in other countries operate. In no other countries, we heard from a distinguished German lawyer today, would you actually see people held in preventive detention, no charges, their own lawyers not being given the details of the case. This just doesn't happen anywhere else, and it's very damaging to Polish business. You've heard from John Borrell. He's written a whole book about it, for heaven's sake. There's a film made about it. The president of Poland, Mr. Komorowski, has said everybody should go and see this film, but it still goes on. So this is a kind of a cry of help to the Polish state to look at this preventive detention of businessmen and to find a different way of doing things that's in conformity with EU normal legal practices for businesses.
Another speaker was John Burrell, author of The White Lake, a book based on his own experience of fighting with corrupt officials in northeast Poland.
The book is about my fight over 20 years with the local układ, I suppose cabal would be the right word, of fairly corrupt local officials whose roots were in the communist era and who continue to hold power, especially in rural areas where I built my businesses over the years.
What would your advice be to anybody seeking to open a business in Poland?
Well, I think in general it's relatively easy now, and if you're opening a business in a big city, I think it's increasingly easy, and I think it's an increasingly transparent thing to do. And it's also, you can do it a lot faster. I think when you get out into country areas, small towns, small cities, it becomes a lot more difficult then, because the cabals in these places are still unreformed.
Is there hope that they will become reformed?
It's slowly happening. I mean, my fight through my own newspaper has, I'm sure, improved the local political culture. It'll never completely change anything, but lots of people are making stands against the lack of transparency and lots of public and official businesses dealings. So I think it's getting better, and I'm hoping that the people will continue to fight, because that's the way it gets better. And
would you do it again?
Well, yes, I would, because people often ask me this, and I think the reason that I would do is that I stood there and I fought against it rather than going. I was tempted just to say this is impossible and to leave at many stages, but I stayed there and I fought, and I have to say the legal system ultimately helped me to win. So yes, simple answer, I would do it again.